all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, to hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step. I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets. Cause we know who we are, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here and stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. Hello, I can't take no loss. My team hold no wells, no. Aiming for the top, can't make it by myself.
All right, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. The Bears lost. Caleb Williams threw the greatest throw I've ever seen come from a quarterback in a Bears uniform, and then followed up in overtime by his worst throw of the year. It was a wonderful season. We outkicked our coverage on this one. We were playing with house money the entire offseason, and the future looks bright. That's all I'm going to say. Ed got his druthers. You Packer fans, I know Schadenfreude is very real right now. Go ahead and have your fun. At least we were there. All right. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. 1 year of Donald Trump. Not the show's anniversary. That'll be in June, I think. 1 year with Donald Trump. Mr. Dictator for just one day. Looks like it turned out to be longer than just one day. Mr. Dictator for a day. 1 year. 1 year. So I just wanted to quickly catch up on a few things that we've seen over the year. A little pattern forming. Okay? And first, let's just kind of point out and see how he's doing with his campaign promises. Real quick. Why don't we just sum up real quick? 1 year in. No tax on tip, no tax on overtime. Fail. It's a deduction, not no tax. They're still taxed. It's just a deduction. Fail. Ukrainian war will be over on day one. Fail. Fail. Persecute brown people. Ding, ding, ding. We got that one. Covered. Nicely done. He's fulfilling that promise, with zest and zeal. He's doing a great job on that one. Well done, Mr. Trump, on persecuting brown people. Just any old brown people. Indians, mixed race. Doesn't matter what nationality you may be from. Just brown. You better not sound brown. If you look brown, you better not sound brown, because that combination gets you thrown in the back of a truck dropped off at a Walmart parking lot. Lower prices. Fail. Groceries, gas, fail. Put a pin in the gas. We'll see how effectively he squeezes Venezuela for a profit, how far down to the ire of major U.S. oil companies he can push the per barrel. But right now, that's a fail. That's a fail. I dare you, MAGA, to tell me he didn't fail on that one as you go to the grocery store each week, or you fill up twice a week in your car. You tell me. You tell me he's winning, all the winning he's doing on that front. It's a fail. A new health care plan, something to replace Obamacare or make up for the missed subsidies. Health care, affordability, fail. Fail. Follow the Project 2025 playbook? Well, even though throughout his whole campaign he said, I've never heard of it. Project what? Who? No, I don't know what you're talking about. In our administration right now, these authors now hold positions. Brendan Carr, head of the FCC, Tom Homan. These are all authors of Project 2025 that are in our administration. Brendan Carr, Tom Homan, Lindsey Burke, John Ratcliffe, and of course, the architect of all this chaos. And I'm just hitting the big ones. There's a whole lot, but I'm just going to hit the big ones. The architect of all this chaos, Russ Vought, who said himself, we want to paralyze the legal system of this country. We want to hit them with a barrage of issues so they can't keep up while they're challenging one. We're doing 3 more things. Oh, following the 2025 playbook, Project 2025 playbook, that is a check mark. Ding, ding, ding. Followed to the T, to the letter, to this point. Firing independent agency members. He went and fired the heads of the National Labor Relations, Federal Trade Commission. It goes on and on, the amount of agencies whose heads were fired. Just so you know, members of the heads of these agencies have fixed terms. They serve fixed terms. They are congressionally approved, serve fixed terms. It cannot be removed before those terms are up without good cause. Trump has offered no explanation for the vast majority of the firings of heads of agencies to this point. And this is all in line with the unitary executive theory. Project 2025, Russ Vought's baby, the unitary executive theory. That's what a lot of this is going to fall under. Firing government watchdogs, right? Inspectors generals, all the ones that are supposed to oversee the executive branch, they're all gone. They're all gone. Now, Congress has passed laws to protect these people, right? Even the Inspector General Reforms Act of 1978. They are not allowed to fire an inspector general. They have 30 days to give lawmakers, right? They have a month. If they want to fire one of them, one of the IGs, what they're supposed to do is tell Congress 30 days ahead and give them a chance to, look over their specific reasoning for firing this person. None of that has taken place. Like usual, he has stepped right over Congress. He has stiff-armed them. They are impotent, and they're starting to feel it, and they're starting to speak out. They're completely overlooked on a number of issues that were supposed to have their congressional approval. A number of issues. He has stiff-armed Congress since day one. Since day one. Now, some of the inspector generals have fired a lawsuit. One federal district court judge said, yeah, he violated the law in firing them, but none of them have been reinstated because they're waiting for the Supreme Court to weigh in. Of course they are. Oh, we'll get to them. We'll get to them. Firing civil servants, you know about that. You know about all the civil servants that Russ Vought tried to fire, specifically targeting career prosecutors, right, that went after Trump in any investigations, politically motivated firings of civil servants. Well, isn't there protections for them, Brett? Of course there are. The Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, and in the U.S. Code 5, Section 2302, it prohibits it's in the prohibited personnel practices section of the U.S. Code. You cannot fire people for political reasons, period. But of course he does. Of course he does. And federal courts are mired in litigation around that as well. But they remain fired. Tons have quit. Obviously, we've talked about how many prosecutors specifically have quit in the face of this DOJ and this administration, but so many have been fired. So many have been purged from the DOJ and the FBI for political reasons. Completely against the law. Completely against the law. I'm directing criminal investigations against James Comey, Letitia James. Now I'm kind of hipping you to what's going on with these things as I tell them to you. What's going on with the Letitia James and the James Comey and the Adam Schiff and the Lisa Cook. They are getting their asses kicked time and time again by federal judges and by grand juries. They are getting their asses kicked on that front. It isn't going well for him on the politically motivated investigations and charges into Comey and Cook and James and Schiff. Now, Bolton, we're going to see that play out real soon. We'll see how successful. That is a little different. That is a more cut and dry evidentiary thing. It's less politically motivated, less up for interpretation, less likely to be dismissed by motion. Because we're talking about physical evidence, documents that may have been held at his residence. So we'll see what happens with the Bolton investigation. But so far, they've been getting their ass kicked left and right in that. They're targeting law firms, right? Any law firms that have any kind of diversity hiring standards, or any law firms that have been defending, representing clients who are coming after this investigation, or clients who are defending themselves from this administration, right? They're all getting attacked. They're all getting attacked. First and Fifth Amendment obviously protects them, free speech, equal protection under the law. Trump doesn't care about that. 4 law firms are defending themselves, suing the administration for their attack on them. 9 have made deals, done work for the administration pro bono. With walked away from clients who this administration deems left-wing radicalist opposition. They walk away. 9 have done that. 9. Targeting universities. You've seen how this played out. You've seen how it played out. Distribution of federal grants that were congressionally approved. He doesn't care about congressional improvement. I'm going to do what I want with this money. And what I want to do with this money is threaten Harvard and threaten Columbia. That's what I want to do with this money, over allowing people to express their First Amendment right to protest the bombing of Gaza, specifically calling it all anti-Semitic, and that these universities need to crack down, their words, on all of this, violent rhetoric, or in other words, free speech, First Amendment protected free speech and right to protest. That's what it is, but Trump threatened them anyway. Oh, and don't forget the discriminatory practices of where all these universities are discriminating against white Christian men and not allowing them to be a part of their university. I mean, I can't even get it out without laughing. Claiming the discrimination practices of these universities versus conservative white men. Because that's the demographic that is under attack here in this country. And just like the law firms, some universities are bending the knee, some universities are suing. And that is continuing to play out. Of course, the taxes, and I want to stop here for a second. The taxes, the tariffs, right? The tariffs. You know how it played out. He invoked the International Emergencies Economic Power Act, the IEEPA. He invoked it. Okay, normally, that it is not used like this, obviously. He's using it. What does he say for? He said there were trade deficits at an emergency level, and illicit drugs coming across borders, right? We have to punish countries who are sending their criminals and their drug dealers over our border. Well, I just want to tell you, as far as the trade deficit goes, and I know a lot of my audience knows this because you guys are educated, we have trade deficits with these countries because we are one of the world's largest buyers of goods. And smaller countries could not possibly keep up with our level of purchasing. Therefore, there's a deficit. In his eyes, they sell more to us than we sell to them. They're taking advantage of us. But nobody can sell as much to nobody can sell as nobody can buy our goods as much as we can buy theirs. Thank you. Give me a second. I'll work through it live on air as I sound like a jackass. Nobody can buy as much as we buy, period. It can't happen. There are a few countries we do not have a trade deficit with. So your next question was, well, Brett, does he have tariffs on those? He has tariffs on everybody. The countries that he has laid tariffs on, in Brazil's case, 50%. These tariffs are across the board crazy. These are the countries we do not have a trade deficit with. UAE, Singapore, Turkey, New Zealand, UK, Australia, Brazil, Chile. We have a surplus with those nations. A surplus. They buy more from us than we buy from them. You think they're all spared the tariffs? Of course not. Like I said, Brazil's 50%, because they had the balls to try and convict a criminal, Bolsonaro, Trump's friend. Oh, you want to convict my guilty friend? 50% tariffs on your country. That's how they get down. Gangster style. Gangster style. We've talked about this stuff. Bypassing confirmation process. Bill Asaley, John Sarcone, Alina Habba, Lindsay Halligan, all ruled unconstitutionally appointed and dismissed from their posts by judges. The boat attacks. Trump claims we're at war with cartels. They're combatants, non-state combatants. The fact of the matter is, if we're not at war, it's murder. If we are at war, it's a war crime. Domestic and international law forbids military from deliberately targeting civilians who do not pose an immediate threat. And it's not just immediate threat with these boats. They're not even going to the United States. We're talking about little 4-engine boats that can make it halfway across the Caribbean. They're not even coming to the United States. They're not even a threat.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Now back to Brett Breaks Things, smashing spin, silencing the noise, and keeping it all facts, no fluff.
The hits just keep on coming. And by the way, what's happening with the boat attacks? Well, nothing. Nothing's happening with the boat attacks. There were resolutions to put an end to his boat strikes, and they failed. The Senate Republicans would have absolutely none of it. They would have absolutely none of reining in this freaking warlord. None of it. So nothing's being done about that. That continues to this day. They seized Maduro. I mean, obviously, I mean, if we're at war with Venezuela, there was no congressional approval. If we're not at war with Venezuela and it was a law enforcement action, it violates UN charter. Period. It's a UN nation. You just went in, you unseated their leader in a UN, recognized country that has sovereignty and laws protecting them according to UN. Doesn't matter. He craps on the UN. He doesn't give a crap about NATO or the UN or the ICC or the ICJ. He doesn't care about any of it. None of it. Do something about it is what he basically says to them. Bombed Iran with no congressional approval. We're not at war. We're just bombing their facilities. No big deal. The bigliest operation in human history until Maduro is unseated, according to this administration. It's pathetic. U.S. troops on domestic soil. Don't worry about the Posse Comitatus Act. Don't worry about that stuff. Just deploy troops where the hell you want. Luckily, that one, it lost momentum. It got challenged. Not all of these went totally swimmingly, right? But he did send troops, not just federal guard, but troops to Los Angeles and D.C., which is insane. Federalizing the National Guard. You know how he's doing it. Gets blocked, appeals allow it. Supreme Court already said at the top of the food chain, no problem. He can federalize the troops and send them where they want. Holding the immigrants at Gitmo. Trump sent a bunch of immigrants to Gitmo. Just so you know, detaining migrants is a civilian law enforcement task, not a military one. Not a military one. You don't send detainees of a civilian law enforcement act to a military prison, just so we're clear. The expeditious deportation of Venezuelans to El Salvador. Supreme Court, no problem. No problem. Canceling student visas. Seeking to end birthright. The hits just keep on coming. And who keeps getting brought up at the end of half of the discussions? The Supreme Court. Because they've already ruled on some. Arguments have been made on some. Some have yet to be argued yet. So, 9 courts have been decided in this docket. What many legal experts have said is going to be the most important, most formative docket possibly in U.S. Supreme Court history. America will be fundamentally different for better or for worse after this particular term. Now, 9 cases have been decided. 12 have not yet been decided. 7 of those decisions have been with Trump. 1 has been not for Trump, against Trump, and 1 was kind of men's a 50-50. To be argued still is the firing of Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve. If they uphold the firing, or actually it would be striking down the U.S. court Judge Gia Cobb's decision. They would strike down her decision and allow Lisa Cook to be fired. If they do that, that is the last domino of any agency independence left to fall. There will be no independent agents at all. Every single agency in this administration, everyone will be weaponized for Donald J. Trump. Everyone. And probably weaponized going forward. Just so we're clear. Now, Kavanaugh, who almost always sides with Trump, he's one of the ones that said, not so fast. The Fed is different. Roberts has said the Fed independence is crucial. Crucial for the markets, crucial for economic stability. So a number of the judges who normally are right in lockstep with this guy have already signaled that might not go like Don wants it to. I am holding out hope, and I think they will uphold Judge Gia Cobb's decision to put Lisa Cook back to work. That's my prediction on that one. Also to be argued, and this is absolutely insane. This is just bonkers. NRA patronizing, just bat crap, cult crazy, just insane. So Hawaii law prohibits you from walking into your friend's house with a concealed handgun without their consent. Yeah, you know where I'm going. It's being heard today, Scotty? Thank you. It's being heard today. Challengers of this law say, no. You are restricting our handgun carry laws, our rights. The Second Amendment, this runs afoul of the Second Amendment. You cannot tell me I can't bring my concealed handgun into your house without you knowing it. How dare you tell me that? What, you got kids? You better not ask me if I got a handgun. You'll be violating my Second Amendment right. I don't have to tell you, and you can't tell me. I'm gonna bring a concealed handgun into your house. That's being argued. It's being argued. There's two sides to that. That's where we are. There's two sides to that. Okay, here's what's been argued. Transgender athletes in women's sports, no decision yet. World War II era pollution liability. Of course, they want to roll back restrictions and any type, look, we got to let big business run wild here. You can't be handcuffing these guys. They want to pollute to make America great again. You got to let them. Limits on political party spending. There shouldn't be any, right? No limits. What are we talking about here? Independence of federal agencies, you know where that's going. Crisis, pregnancy center subpoenas. There's some other small ones, copyright infringement, some other small ones. There's the legality of Trump's tariffs. That's not small. There's the race and voting districts. That's the consideration of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and possibly doing away with it. The majority-minority districts. If that doesn't go our way, just so we're clear, they may pick up 20 seats in the upcoming midterms. If this Supreme Court completely strikes down Section 2, they could potentially, with their already gerrymandered seats, pick up 20 damn seats. Is that the biggest of all these? Maybe. And of course, the conversion therapy argument. We got to argue about this. Conversion therapy for gay and transgender teens, because that's what's the pressing issue in America today. That's what people are really feeling. That's what they're really concerned about. Here's what's been decided. A challenge to mail-in ballots that didn't go really either way, and it's also not done. So there's a little asterisk on that one, because we got to see what our elections officials decide to do with half of the election officials at state level having quit already. We'll see what their replacements look like. We'll see what there's going to be a lot of things to disseminate as we get closer to the 2026 midterms in terms of election integrity. So you got to put a pin in that. National Guard troops to Chicago. That's his one loss. Abbott said, yeah, grab our troops. Over in Texas, Abbott said, yes, take our federal guard and send them to Chicago for Operation Midway Blitz. A judge said no. Then the Supreme Court said no. One loss for Donald Trump. Self-identifying gender on passports, a win for Donald. That's no more. Deportation of Venezuelan migrants, they're still sitting in that El Salvadorian death prison. That's a win for Trump. Foreign aid freeze, USAID, right? Health, education, anti-corruption in burgeoning nations, PrEPFAR, AIDS relief, HIV relief, all of it's gone. Billions, all gone. Win for Trump. Race is a factor in immigration raids. Now, if you are brown and you don't sound American, that's all they need. Brown with an accent, you're getting in the back of a truck or an unmarked SUV. Detained. That's it. A facial app jammed in your face. And by the way, they got this new little trick with that facial app that we mentioned, the one that should be believed over your passport and your birth certificate. Remember that little story we did? Now they're throwing that app in people's face and it's going error. Well, they say, right? They put the app in the face. Didn't work. Put the app in the face. Oh, that didn't work. We just got to take you downtown. It's inconclusive. Sorry. We'll figure it out later. That's the new trick they're pulling. Removing members of consumer protection safety commissions and other boards, labor relation boards, other crucial agencies that are here to protect us. Win for Trump. He can do what he wants. Gutting the Department of Education. That was before the Supreme Court. Win for Trump. What else is he going to win on? Is he going to win on the tariffs? Maybe. Judge Coney Barrett, she sounded pretty definitive. She's not for the tariffs. Kavanaugh also had major questions in terms of the tariffs as well. That one's up in the air. Voting Rights Act, up in the air, right? They talked about maybe adjusting the language or reevaluating what should be a minority-majority district going forward. So there might be avenues to keep Section 2 alive. We'll see.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things because democracy doesn't defend itself.
Okay. All right. So real quick, let's talk about what the American people are doing about all this, right? Another protest. This time, a walkout. A walkout is planned. Okay. Tens of thousands of Americans are expected to walk out today, 2 p.m. local time, which I thought about. How does that work? Why didn't they set different, right? Like just, it says on their website, it says 2 p.m. local time. So I guess it's going to be a staggered walkout. I guess, I don't know if that is more effective, less effective. I'd like to know like the reasoning. Yeah, day after a holiday. We'll see. It's going to be staggered. 2 p.m. local time, you are expected to get up out of your work, school, or any businesses you are in and walk out. Boom. Walk out. That is the new protest going on today. So if you want to take advantage, you will have time. You will have time by the time you've watched this show. You can make your own decision, see if it's something that works for you and your schedule, whatever. Even if it doesn't work, do it. Anyway. Free America Protest is the name of this. Free America Protest. They talked about it. The movement's website said, "A free America begins the moment we refuse to cooperate. This is not a request. This is a rupture. This is a protest and a promise. In the face of fascism, we will be ungovernable." There are 800 Free America protests scheduled, events scheduled with 38,000 RSVPs to these events. Dana Fisher, who is a professor of American University, she said something I thought was interesting. She said, and she talked kind of about this setting the stage going forward. The vanguard in this are starting to think about how one day peaceful, legally permitted marches are not enough to push back against this administration. So she's basically saying, you know, the protests we've seen have been great, but it's just not going to be enough. And those people who are at the front lines who are putting together these events, they have to think about what may come next. Obviously, short of violence, but what may come next. And this is something that we might see more often, and there might be other iterations of protest after this. She said they're starting to think through what types of tactics are ones that people are comfortable with and would be willing and open to participating in to expand the toolbox of protest and demonstration. Okay, I'm here for it. White House spokesperson Liz Houston, not Abigail Jackson or one of the regular degenerates. We haven't heard as much from Liz Houston. She's trying to make her name in the world today. It takes everything you got. So here's her, everything she's got. President Trump is making America greater than ever before for all Americans. That is her response to the Free America protests. It's pathetic. Let's dive into the numbers just a little bit. Now, last year, the No Kings in October peaked at 7 million protesters. Not bad. They are theorizing that the next No Kings protest, and there will be more, they're theorizing the next one could be as high as 12 million protesters. And that is important because Harvard University did a study. They did a study on how much of the population protesting does it take to make a difference. And they, through their study, have found that it's about 3.5% of the population to enact real change or at least awareness by the administration. 12 million is exactly that number. Now, Rachel O'Leary, a Women's March executive director, said something very pragmatic that I thought was pretty good. She said, I don't think there is an intervention that will have the MAGA regime see the error of its ways. You're right. She went on, though, I do think there are interventions that demonstrate the political, electoral, and financial cost of authoritarianism in our communities. And those are the things that we have to be focused on. That's very pragmatic of you, Rachel. I appreciate that. Let's dive into the numbers just a little bit more in terms of the staying away from violence aspect of all of this and giving Trump what he wants and a real reason to invoke the Insurrection Act. When we dive into those numbers a little bit, it's a little alarming. There was a Fisher poll, taking survey data. As of January 16th, just now, as of January 16th, 34% of those polled agreed that Americans, quote, may have to resort to violence in order to save our country. That is up 11 percentage points from the No Kings protest when this poll collected the data last time. 34% think violence might be necessary to stop this dictatorship. 34%. And I wonder, will that 34%, the totality of them, be able to control themselves going forward? That's a lot of people I'm asking to lean on the better nature, right? The better nature. Peace. In the face of people getting shot and killed, dragged away, bloodied, tear gas, pepper sprayed, doors broken down, guns in the face of their children. In the face of all this, will 34% of those polled who think violence may be the answer not resort to it? That feels like it might be a bit of a, miracle territory, to be honest with you. But God, I hope. I know Rod, my Aunt Sandy, they'll be able to control themselves. I know they will. I have faith in them. 34% of all those going to these protests, do I have faith in all of them? I don't know. Okay. Why are they pissed? Let's get back into why they are so damn pissed. And here is the confirmation of what I and a couple lawmakers theorized about this investigation into Agent Ross, the agent that shot and killed Renee Nicole Good. What we had theorized, what we had hoped wouldn't be the truth, but thought it might be, is there is no investigation into Agent Ross. That's what we feared. Well, here's the thing. As soon as the shooting happened, agents in law enforcement in Minneapolis immediately went to a judge to get a warrant to search Renee Nicole Good's car and begin an investigation. But not just any investigation, a civil rights investigation, because this is what you do. And they wanted to get on top of it, thinking this will be handled just like any other officer-involved shooting. You immediately begin a civil rights investigation. That's what you do. So they began doing it, and they even went and got a warrant signed by a judge. And they go running back to the FBI. The FBI who said, well, law enforcement won't be a part of this. And true to their word, they declined to execute the warrant. Not necessary. Those law enforcement officers at the time, they were very confused. They were very confused until they were no longer confused because of an explanation out of Harmeet Dillon, the head of the civil rights unit in the DOJ, telling us civil rights doesn't need to be involved here. Our civil rights criminal division is not going to investigate the civil rights of Renee Nicole Good being violated. No need for us to investigate. True to their word, decline the warrant. We don't need to serve this warrant. We don't need the car. We don't need to investigate because we are not investigating Agent Ross. And out comes Todd Blanche telling us exactly what we feared. Here's Todd Blanche, our deputy AG at the DOJ. Quote, there are over 1,000 shootings every year. We investigate when it's appropriate to investigate. And that is not the case here. It was not the case when it happened, and it's not the case today. But the DOJ had no problem announcing an investigation into Renee Nicole Good's wife, Rebecca Good. We are doing an investigation into Rebecca Good. Great. So we are not, just to be clear and official, our FBI, our DOJ, and law enforcement and state officials in Minneapolis are not investigating whether Agent Ross violated the rights of Renee Nicole Good. They're not saying he didn't or he did. They're saying we don't care. We don't care, and we're not going to investigate. Sorry, we're not doing it. So in the face of this, there have been about a dozen quittings across Washington, D.C. and Minnesota. 5 in Minnesota. 5 prosecutors in Minnesota quit immediately, including the AG second in command. They all quit. Because the Justice Department demanded that they investigate Rebecca Good. As soon as they expected to be investigating the killing of Renee Nicole Good, and when they were told their only task here is to investigate Rebecca Good, they all quit. Good for them. And in Washington, under Harmeet Dillon and in the Civil Rights Division, how many? A bunch more. A few. Let's see. 4 more. 4 people. No, more. 7. 7 people quit the Civil Rights Division, the criminal section of the Civil Rights Division, when Harmeet Dillon, their head, said, we are not investigating the shooting. They all said, this is exactly what we took this job to do. This is a completely weaponized DOJ and Civil Rights Division. We quit. What else can they do? Their scruples, their moral compasses, their professionalism, and their education demanded that they quit. And that's exactly what they did. Good for them. And, let's just be clear. If there was an investigation, and there always is in a police shooting, if there was, they would have found one of 2 things. One, and the more likely outcome, which is he was legally in his right to shoot her in the line of duty because his safety was at risk. Legal experts are saying that probably would have been the outcome if they did investigate. The other outcome could have been he was rightful in taking the first shot to defend himself. But the next 2, as she was clearly missing him, that might have violated her rights. Those were the outcomes. And most legal experts are saying it would have been option A. He would have walked away from this, but we're not even going to get there. We're never going to see that. So just if you're keeping score, if you're keeping a tally out there, and this is playoff season, if you're keeping a tally, Agent Ross and his actions, and the violation of Renee Nicole Good's civil rights, no investigation. Rebecca Good, Tim Walz, and Jacob Frey, now the AG of Minneapolis, Ellison, they're all getting investigated. Just if we're keeping score.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a call. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
I guess I loaded the wrong ad. For those of you who are multilingual, I'm sure you enjoyed that second ad. For the rest of you, I'll get that replaced. I apologize. All right. We've heard about the protests, right? We've heard about the protests. We've heard about the investigation. We know where we all stand. What is anybody doing about it? What is anybody doing about it? What can we do about it? What can we do about this situation in Minnesota right now? What can we do about this immigration policy and people's rights being absolutely crapped on? U.S. citizens detained, thrown in the back of vehicles, only to be let out in just a few hours, or maybe 10 hours, or maybe 2 days later, depending on your luck. Well, here's what can be done about it. Here's one thing that can be done about it. A federal judge in Minneapolis, Judge Catherine Menendez, has issued an injunction on ICE, ordered them and other immigration agents to stop using excessive force against protesters while conducting their operations in their city. Oh, yeah. Yeah. See, there was a lawsuit in December. The American Civil Liberties Union sued them on behalf of several protesters. They filed a complaint against the federal government and its agents, and they were seeking to protect protesters' free speech, assembly rights, and keep them from unlawful search and seizure. They sued, and the judge, in the face of this suit, has issued an injunction in their favor. Okay, Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, spoke to this. She called the judge's findings ridiculous on Sunday. Quote, "We only use those chemical agents when there's violence happening and perpetuating, and you need to be able to establish law and order to keep people safe," adding that the judge's order will not change the agency's operation on the ground. It's basically telling us to do what we've already been doing. No, it's actually quite the opposite of that, Kristi. I do believe that your agency's operations on the grounds will not change. I do believe that you will ignore this judge's injunction. That I believe. What is absolutely patently false is that you've already been doing what she's asking. Patently false. Of course, you have no problem coming out and lying about something like that. She said her agency is expected to appeal the ruling. She said she will appeal it. There have been other cases like this spreading. There's lawsuits, California, Illinois, Washington. In Illinois, a federal judge issued an exact same injunction, and an appellate court later overruled that judge's injunction. And there's some other cases playing out. But in terms of this case, it was an 83-page ruling, and I'm just going to give you a little bit. This ruling out of Judge Catherine Menendez for the U.S. District Court of the District of Minnesota. She was appointed by Joseph R. Biden. The record adequately illustrates that the defendants have made and will continue to make a common practice of conduct that chills observers and protesters' First Amendment rights. Don't forget, the defendants in this case is the U.S. government and ICE. Kristi Noem, those are the defendants. Judge says chilling First Amendment. She also stated that she gives substantial weight to the sworn statements from the plaintiffs, and noted that the immigration agents involved in the interactions with protesters did not provide sworn declarations. So all of these victims, all of these protesters, I'm going to give you some examples. Oh yeah, I'm going to give you some examples. They all showed up, made sworn statements in front of the judge, told their stories. The officers involved in these altercations, they didn't show up. They don't respect the court. They don't care. They didn't show up. They didn't give any sworn statements. The one person who did give sworn statements on behalf of the government was a guy named David Easterwood. And David Easterwood, this is what he had to say to the judge when given an opportunity to present the defendant's side of the story. He said he was not present at any of the encounters, but rather relied on personal knowledge, reasonable inquiry, and information made available to me that my agents didn't violate any laws and don't need to be reined in. And to that, the judge said, that's why I gave considerably less weight to what you have to say. You weren't even there. You're relying on inquiry into your officer's account of what happened, the officers who perpetrated the violations. You went to your officers, asked what happened, they came back with crap, and then you presented crap to me. So significantly less weight was given to Mr. Easterwood's account of details. So the judge ruled the 83-page injunction in favor of the plaintiffs, the suing party. Okay? Now, who are some of these people? Let me just give you a few examples of what swayed the judge. There's the story of Abdicator Noor. Abdicator Noor was with a crowd of protesters. ICE was there to try to make an arrest on somebody. There was a crowd that gathered quickly to protest. And when the crowd started to close in on the officers, Abdicator turned away from the officers, put his hands up in front of the fellow protesters, pleading with them to not approach the protesters, pleading with them to stay peaceful. What did the ICE agents do? They grabbed his arms and handcuffed him and threw him in the back of a van. 43-year-old U.S. citizen of Somali descent. Shackled, thrown in a van, and thrown in a detention cell. Okay. All right. How about Susan Tincher. She woke up because there was some noise outside in the street in her neighborhood in Minneapolis, okay? And she went down to where the source of the noise was. She found her neighbors encircling a home that is getting busted into, okay? They all formed a little perimeter, okay? She stood there. She didn't say anything. She didn't do anything. She didn't throw anything. She had no signs. She was just looking to see what was happening to her neighbors. An ICE agent turned to her and said, "You, back up," then turned immediately to his partner and said, "Take her." And that's exactly what they did. They grabbed her, threw her face down in the snow, detained her, threw her in a van, took her downtown. They removed her clothing, cut off her wedding ring, shackled her, and threw her in a cell. She was later released and never charged. Okay. Alan Crenshaw, he entered a restaurant because there was a commotion. Okay. 35-year-old Minnesota resident, U.S. citizen, just like Tincher, just like Noor, U.S. citizens. Crenshaw went into a restaurant because he heard a kerfuffle. And what he walked in and saw is an ICE agent slamming a black man's face into the wall. Okay. Then they grabbed him and they threw him outside in the snow. They handcuffed him and began putting him in a van. And that's when two other agents who were right there next to the two agents putting him in the van, they immediately turned and sprayed down Crenshaw and like a handful of other people that were standing outside the restaurant. Just pepper sprayed him down. No warning. No orders given. No asking of their papers. No asking them to back up. Just sprayed him down. And he said once the guys who sprayed him down got in the SUV with the black male and left, another unmarked SUV pulled up and sprayed everybody else down. You just got maced. Just sprayed down if you're anywhere in the area. And then there was the Breastmans, John and Janet. They were, not wisely, but in a constitutionally protected fashion, they were following slowly down the street an ICE van. I don't know. Okay, so let's just assume they wanted to keep an eye on what they were doing. I feel like you shouldn't be doing that. I just feel like you shouldn't be following ICE agents in your car. You join the same group chat that the goods were on, right? So you can find out where their activity is happening and then go there peacefully. But I just don't love following them in your car, So that's what they were doing. Slowly and at a good distance. And they turn into a park to stop following, and 4 unmarked vehicles box them in. Jump out of their vehicles, ICE agents, run up to their car, start slamming on their windows. Janet rolls down her window. One of them reached in and grabbed her. Then when he did that, the rest of the agents pulled out semi-automatic weapons and jammed them all in their face. U.S. citizens. So, it's funny because I keep telling you these stories. And a lot of them end with, when it's a U.S. citizen, they were detained, roughed up, stripped naked, whatever, and then released. Detained and then released. Why so many U.S. citizens erroneously, unconstitutionally detained? Like I said, 2 hours, 10 hours, 2 days. What's the difference? Why? Well, I'll tell you why. One of the main reasons why. First, it's important to know that Operation Metro Surge, the ICE operation that's going on in Minneapolis right now, is 3,000 officers strong. The population is only 430,000. In contrast, Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, that was a few hundred officers strong for a population of 2.7 million. You see the difference? And what are these agents doing? What are their orders? We've talked about the facial recognition apps. We've talked about being able to question and detain based on color and accent. But what we haven't talked about, and what is being leaked, reported to the press, is that officers, they have a 3,000 arrest daily quota at ICE. They aren't coming close. Not close. Not once have they come close to that. But one thing they're doing now, one thing they've been directed now to do, is make arrests without evidence. Make arrests at any cost. Make arrests of U.S. citizens. Make arrests of possible non-citizens. Make arrests of everybody. Because they are getting rewarded, cash rewards, for making arrests, even if the detainee is later released. Let that sink in. They are getting monetary rewards for making arrests. Hard stop. Does not matter if it's a U.S. citizen or not, if they are later released or not. They're getting money to make arrests. You want to know why so many U.S. citizens are getting thrown in cells? That's why. That's why. By the way, we're going late. Of course we are. We're going late. I also want to tell you, got to take Thursday off. Hockey season's almost over, but I have to be there and be available for the hockey broadcast here, the minor league club, the Typhoon here in West Palm Beach, minor league club that I do the operation broadcast for. I got to be available. There's nothing I can do about it. Season's almost over, so those absences will stop. But I'll be here today. I'm here today. I'm going to go overtime. I'm here tomorrow, and then I'll be here Friday as well. But we are going overtime today. I'm going to bring you a couple more examples of what this immigration policy looks like. Examples like Judge Menendez pointed to. Examples that are leading, judges to rule injunctions on their behavior, injunctions that they may or may not follow. We've got more. And we've got more pushback from what they're doing. Just more. We'll be back.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, where the truth hits harder than the headlines.
This was January 18th. Look at this. So they're pulling a gentleman out of his home in the snow with only a blanket. An older Asian gentleman. Protesters seeing it, crying at the sight, the spectacle. Oh man, that was St. Paul. That was Chung Lee Tao. 56-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen, goes by the name of Scott. That's who that was. Yeah, goes by Scott. And as you can see, dragging him out of his home in no clothes. All he had was Crocs and boxers, and his 4-year-old grandson barely got enough time to put one of the 4-year-old's blankets over his shoulders to try to cover his torso. It was like 11 degrees or something there. It's like 11 degrees. As they drag him away. I was praying. I was like, God, please help me. I didn't do anything wrong. Why did they do this to me without my clothes on? His family called the incident unnecessary, degrading, and deeply traumatizing. What does the Department of Homeland Security say? Said the officers were investigating 2 convicted sex offenders at the address, and that a U.S. citizen living there refused to be fingerprinted or facially identified, so he was detained. The truth of the matter is DHS republished a little older wanted poster for ICE agents. The target was 2 criminal illegal aliens from Laos. They were describing them as sexual predators. They had sexual charges that they were wanted for. And here's the thing. One of them used to live at the house there that Scott lives at. Used to, a while back. No reason to do any checking. No reason to do any due diligence. Just break in. He's Asian, right? He could be from Laos. Don't worry about what he's saying. Don't worry about what his screaming family who was there with him are saying. He tried to get to his ID. They didn't allow him to. He's Asian. He must be the guy. Dragged him out in his boxers. They were, the family was sitting around, they were singing karaoke when they heard the loud noise. Tried to find his ID. ID wouldn't have helped you, Scott. ID wouldn't have helped you. Because if their little facial recognition software says you got to go, you got to go. And if their little facial recognition software app malfunctions a couple times, well, then you just got to go. Either way, no matter what, you got to go. Get in the van. They detained him. They took his headshot. They took his fingerprints. Oops, he is a U.S. citizen, and they let him go. I will leave you on this story what he said. I'm not going to leave you. I'm saying I'm going to move on from the story, and I'm going to leave you with this. He said, we came here for a purpose, right? To have a bright future, to have a safe place to live. If this is going to turn out to be America, what are we doing here? Why are we here? That's a great question, Scott. And I got news for you right now. This is America. This is what it is right now. How sad is that? How sad is that? I can't in good faith recommend to anybody come here right now. How could I possibly? How sad is that? We used to be America. So, all right. So this judge, Catherine Menendez, okay, her injunction bars ICE agents from arresting or pepper spraying people for simply observing or criticizing the federal government's actions. Point blank, boom. It also ruled that safely following ICE vehicles is not, on its own, a justifiable reason for a traffic stop. You know, the Beastman's example. Can't do it anymore. Stop doing it. Kristi Noem says we're not doing it. Everything we're doing is constitutional. So, since the judge's order is ordering us to do things, stop doing things that we're not doing, then we're going to ignore it and we're going to keep doing what we're doing. That's Kristi's response to that. Now, the lawyers for the administration are going to appeal Judge Catherine Menendez's injunction. They're going to appeal it. It's going to be in the 8th Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals. That's where it's going to show up, the 8th Circuit. We're going to appeal. Don't even think about possibly admonishing the unconstitutional actions of your agents, holding them accountable, telling other agents this isn't the way to do it, pointing at these specific examples, pointing at the video here of Mr. Scott. Not even a consideration, right? Pointing at the actions of these officers saying this isn't the right way. We need to do things the right way. That's a non-starter. That's a non-starter. And they won't even say, look, in the face of this injunction, we will ensure that ICE is practicing constitutionally legal tactics. They won't say that either. They say, we're going to appeal. We're going to challenge what this judge says. We're going to challenge our right to detain U.S. citizens for very little reason or no reason at all. We're going to challenge the judge telling us to stop pepper spraying demonstrators or protesters. We're going to challenge these things because we want to continue to do these things. The balls. What bizarro world are we in? They're going to challenge a judge telling them to stop violating the rights of Americans. They're going to challenge it. So, as I usually do in times like this, I say, oh, the 8th Circuit, huh? Who sits on the 8th Circuit? That's my next question, right? Naturally. What are the chances this gets summarily shot down? Injunction overruled. Well, It's going to be a 3-judge panel. They haven't picked him yet. But I looked at who it is, right? Who's on this panel. I'm going to go quick. See how you feel about it when I get done with this list. All right? See how you feel about the chances of this injunction when I'm done. Stephen Callington, W. Bush appointee. James Lakin, H.W. Bush appointee. Lewinsky Smith, W. Bush appointee. Raymond Gruder, W. Bush appointee. Dwayne Benton, W. Bush appointee. You've got Jane Kelly, Barack Obama appointee. And then you've got Ralph Erickson, Stephen Grash, David Strass, and Jonathan Kobes, all Trump appointees. It's going to be one of these 3. We have talked about non-Trump conservative judges have not been in lockstep with this administration's policies. They have far more ruled against Trump in these appellate courts than the Trump appointees would ever dare. There may be hope. But how do you feel after I give you that list, right? Doesn't look great. Doesn't look great for that injunction. Not that Kristi Noem would adhere to it anyway. What does it matter? Make her stop. Make her. Judge Catherine Menendez, make her stop. All right. Also, in terms of unconstitutional, it turns out a bunch of lawyers got together and talked to ABC News because they have been barred from seeing their clients. You know, the constitutional right to an attorney, you know, that pesky little constitutional right that we all enjoy, being able to talk to our lawyer. According to ICE, we're not doing it. Oh, yeah, we're not doing it. 4 separate attorneys who defend immigrants, defense attorneys and immigration attorneys, 4 of them talked to ABC News. The attorneys said they have been denied access to their clients at the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building in Minneapolis, where they are being held, which they say would violate the 5th and 6th Amendment, rights to due process, and the right to consult an attorney. ICE agents were physically restricting me from seeing them. I stood outside the attorney visitation room for about 4 hours on Thursday trying to see one of my clients who had been there for multiple days. I kept saying, you got to let me see my client. And they just kept repeating, we don't do attorney visitations. DHS, they say they denied that any constitutional violations are taking place at the Whipple Federal Building. In a statement for DHS, Trish McLaughlin, she denied attorneys' claims, adding that all detainees have opportunities to communicate with their family members and lawyers. The facts are illegal aliens in the detention have access to phones that they can use to contact their families and lawyers. Additionally, ICE gives all illegal aliens arrested at a court-approved list of free or low-cost attorneys. All detainees receive full due process. Who deserves your trust in this matter? Who has earned your trust? Or better, to put it better, who has betrayed your trust and lied to you multiple times? Four attorneys that talked to ABC News, or Tricia McLaughlin and Kristi Noem at DHS? Who do you believe? One attorney said they have visited clients on a similar immigration charges at the Whipple building for the last decade without an issue. The visitation denials of the past week, they say, are new and unprecedented. They have received multiple reasons why they can't see their clients. They've been told they don't have appointments. They've been told that their clients did not ask for them by name. They've been told that the Whipple building cannot accommodate attorney-client visits. Just so we're clear, not one of these reasons are legal. None of these things can legally be used to stop a client from seeing his attorney while being detained. None of them. Listen to this exchange. One ICE agent said, if we let you see your clients, we would have to let all the attorneys see all their clients. And imagine the chaos. I'm sorry, ICE agent, but that's kind of how America works, at least for now. or at least did work. You know, our Constitution and all. Yes, jackass, all your clients should see all their attorneys right now. Make it happen. What do you do? What are you talking about? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So these lawyers are being barred, physically restrained from seeing their clients. Let's just catch up. And I'm going to bring you a little feel good from over the weekend in just a second. But before I do, I want to let you know that 1,500 troops, U.S. active duty military, are on standby right now by the Pentagon. They have been elevated to standby. We're talking about the Army's 11th Airborne Division in 2 separate battalions. They are on standby to go to Minnesota. These boys are from Alaska, and they are specially trained in cold weather interactions and operations, and they are on standby. Sean Parnell, the Pentagon spokesperson, he said a bunch of things. Jacob Frey, of course, pushed back. This is all, we're all waiting for the Insurrection Act to be invoked by President Trump. Okay? And what has he said about that lately? He said on social media that unless officials in Minnesota could stop protesters from attacking agents with immigration and custom enforcement, he would institute the Insurrection Act and quickly, bigly, strongly, he actually put quickly, put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Shortly after that, on Friday, he eased up just a little bit and he said there wasn't a reason right now to invoke the law, but he said, if I need it, I'll use it. Okay. All right. And just so you know, again, Jacob Frey, Tim Waltz, and their AG Ellison in Minneapolis, they are in Minnesota, they are all under investigation officially. DOJ investigations into Tim Walz, their governor, Jacob Frey, the Minneapolis mayor, an investigation into Rebecca Good, Renee Nicole Good's wife, and an investigation into the Minnesota AG Ellison. Not an investigation into Agent Ross. Not an investigation into whether ICE violated Renee Nicole Good's rights. No. An investigation to Frey, Waltz, Good, and Ellison. Okay. I'm being a little cheeky saying this is a feel-good story, but sometimes the FAFO is very real. Sometimes people bleep around and truly do find out. I want to introduce to you one Jake Lang, okay? Jake Lang, he was a J6er. Okay? He beat a police officer with a baseball bat. He sat in jail for 4 years while awaiting his trial for his January 6th attack. He sat in jail for 4 years. While he was in jail, he organized an armed militant group, organized it while in jail, and routinely refused to adhere to the jail's rules and was disrespectful to the court. So the judge who oversaw his case wrote, he has no basis to conclude that this guy poses anything but a continuing danger to the public. That's who Jake Lang is, a continuing danger to the public. He was pardoned by Donald Trump. I think now, if Scotty and I put our videos in the right order, this is Jake Lang on January 6th. Yep. He was one of the sightseers, one of the peaceful visitors to the Capitol that day, right? So that was Jake Lang. At J6th, January 6th. Here is Jake Lang now. Okay. At City Hall in Minneapolis, at City Hall. Here's Jake Lang now.
Minneapolis City Hall will be burning Qurans, standing up against the Somali invasion of Minneapolis, the immediate deportation of Ilhan Omar, and the arrest of the scammer Tim Walz. Come join us 1 p.m. here, Minneapolis.
Yeah, that's that charming gentleman right there. Threatening to burn the Quran in Minneapolis, which has a large Muslim population, Well, I think it's the largest in the United States. He had a vest on under that jacket. One of the patches on the vest said infidel. I don't know what that was about because he's so pro-Trump. And he did have a giant 47 patch as well in Trump support. He blasted Ice Ice Baby on a player on a Bluetooth. He blasted Ice Ice Baby. In a show of support for the ICE immigration policy and their actions in his city. He used a megaphone to shout, "Go home, Muslims, send the Somalis back," and made incendiary remarks about how immigrants were replacing white Americans. Well, the thing about the First Amendment is the First Amendment protects you from the federal government coming after you for what you say. It doesn't protect you from other people coming after you for what you say.
Let him go. Hey, go. Let me go. Just go. Just go. Let him go, y'all.
That I had to cut out some of the copyright protected, and that's Jake being followed by a huge mob that is kicking him, punching him, and shoving him. I do not condone any of that. I do not condone any of that. But when you threaten to burn the Koran and talk about white replacement theory on the steps of your city hall, this type of thing might play out. As he runs into a store, the store then kicked him out. The crowd is completely surrounding him. Now here's the thing. He was getting kicked, beaten, punched, pushed, pulled. And one person, in the heat of the moment, came to his defense while the crowd was surrounding him. Came to his defense. Check this out. That is a black gentleman who Jake hates, protecting him and shielding him from the crowd. That gentleman is shouting to the crowd, "Please stop. Please, no more violence. Please stop hitting him." And he's trying to get Jake out from the crowd himself. As Jake is on City Hall steps shouting into a megaphone about white replacement theory and denigrating immigrants and minorities, a minority damn near saves his life, possibly did, as he ushers him out from that wall and escorts him out to the edges of that crowd. And that's exactly what he did. And Jake Lang began running. He began running. That black gentleman, and I think he was interviewed. You can check that out. Go look for it. I think he was interviewed. That black gentleman escorted him out of the middle of that mob so Jake could begin running again. Now, I introduce to you Day Gotch. Day Gotch was in a car wondering what all this was about, seeing a gathering of people up in front of her. A man came running up to her car, okay? A man came running up to her car, bloody, scrapes on his face. He ran up to the driver's side. Day's friend unlocked the door, and they let this stranger in their car because he was fleeing, screaming he needed help, looked in need of help. So Day and her friend immediately, without thinking, opened the door and let him in. The protesters began swarming them. They began shouting, "Get him, that's him," other things. They tried to pry the doors open. They tried to kick the doors open. They tried to attack him through the windows. Gotch and her friend took off, got away from the crowd, safely got him away from there. Gotch is a 22-year-old transgender woman and a singer-songwriter. She didn't know that a mob was chasing this gentleman. She saw someone in need of help, so she let him in, bloodied, asking to be let in. She had no idea who he was. She didn't know that he was Jake Lang, acquitted J6er, podcaster, anti-Semite, anti-Muslim, xenophobe, racist. She didn't know any of that. She just saw someone in need. This is a woman who Jake Lang hates, who let him in her car and drove him safely away from the scene. I think we've got video of that. This is the video right here.
Door! Oh my God. Drive. Oh my God. Just drive. Stop! Wait, let them go! Let them go!
Hey, pull over. Pull over. Hey, leave it.
Get out of here.
Leave it up.
Get out of here.
No.
Y'all just let him leave. It's not worth it. Hey!
We don't know him. Stop it. Let him out.
And there they go. There they go. Jake Lang survived that encounter because of the kindness, generosity, good-heartedness of somebody that he hates. He was saved from that crowd, the crowd that gathered around him violently because of his anti-Semitic, anti-immigration, anti-minority remarks. He was saved by a minority. He was saved by a minority, only to be saved by a transgender woman, and that is the only reason he made it out of there alive. And I'm going to leave you with that. We will be back tomorrow. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much.